I don't feel like I have any secrets, so I am not afraid sharing my knowledge with anyone. So please ask away. And I also have some other like AVs, like if you would be interested, and I can also talk about my techniques. So it's basically after that, after this presentation, it's up to you where we go with it. So let's start. I'll share my screen. So, oh. No, I can't. So can you see the presentation?
Now we can.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
now we got it.
Okay, so I will start. The history of photography, which is full of different styles and movements, testifies to the fact that there is more than one way to photograph. Pictorialism, photo secession, avant-garde, group F64, pop art, just to mention a few. All have had their followers and all have had their critics. I am sure you have your own preferences, just as I do. There is not a style, method, or photographing technique that can legitimately claim to be the correct and only way. The creative journey is an individual one. Every photographer who picks up the camera and attempts to create an image does so for their own reasons. For some, it is the challenge of creating an exact likeness of their subject. For others, the aim is to capture an effect of light, record a moment in time or a historic event, express an emotion, illustrate or tell a story, make a social comment, challenge preconceptions, bring beauty into the world, or create an object of decoration. Some create images for their own enjoyment, while others with the market in mind. Their hope and aim are to produce a product of beauty, something unique that other people will want to buy. All are good reasons to photograph and valid reason to pick up a camera. As well as differences in motivation, there are differences of methods and techniques. Pinhole photography, black and white, high speed, motion blur, night photography, HDR, and so on. The list of options is very long. Each medium presents a different set of characteristics, challenges, and possibilities. Temperament too plays a part. I could never be a photojournalist. While I admire the craftsmanship and artistic ability of photojournalists, I have never been tempted to even try, simply because I don't have what it takes to photograph conflicts, injustice, and people in distress. As you can see, Viva la Difference has much relevance to art and photography. We are all different. Each of us is a unique mix of experiences, preferences, temperament, and personality, which will lead us to make a different decision about what is important to us and how we should create photographs. There is a style to satisfy every person. What is more important is to find what works for you and follow your own passion. Let your own interest guide you. What that is may change over time, but your own style will develop with the time spent with your camera. It is important to know that there are no rules. Obviously, some things do work better than others, but that is the part of artistic journey, discovering what works best for you, and most importantly, enjoying the process. We are all here because we share one thing, love for photography. Photographs have changed the world, started global movements, led to social change, ended wars, and revealed truth in ways words never could. The power of photography lies in its ability to speak from soul to soul. When we share an image, we are revealing something that is deeper than words, something intimate, something significant about who we are and what we care about. The camera always looks both ways. In picturing the subject, we are also picturing a part of ourselves. Photography is like visual journaling, and what we are drawn to photograph can speak to us in a symbolic way. We all see the same thing, but we see it differently, and our images show others how we see the world. Our intuition recognizes what about a subject or a scene it's calling us to photograph it, even if our minds don't. Photographs are merely the surface of a deeper expression. What do you want to express? Trust yourself. You have something meaningful to say. Instead of judging your limited skills, give yourself permission to play and practice with your camera. Create simply for the joy it gives you. Allow yourself to enjoy the process and let go of the need to create something that others would approve. If you like what you do, and if you're having fun making it, it's worth doing. There is magic in the process of making photographs. For me, it's the way to express beauty, time, and other emotions and feelings that I can't put into words. It is a way of expressing who I am. In taking a photograph, I can capture a moment in time in a way that shows how I saw it. And then I share that unique vision with others. The creative process of photography allows me to be fully present, to see the beauty that surrounds me, and to feel gratitude for the amazing world I live in. Jane Phillips once said, "To be an artist, it is necessary to live with your eyes wide open, to breathe in the colors of mountains and sky, to know the sound of leaves rustling, the smell of snow, the texture of bark. To be an artist, it's to notice every beautiful and tragic thing, to cry freely, to collect experiences and shape them into forms that others can share." These words tell us that every one of us is an artist. And when we express ourselves in our own unique way, we allow our artist self to come out and play. Photography is both an art and a science. As an art, it expresses a personal vision. As a science, it relies on technology. This double nature, it's not unique only to photography. Every kind of creative expression has both artistic side and technological side as well. For me, a successful image, it's not necessarily about accuracy and representation, but much more to do with a personal response and interpretation. I am interested in taking photographs that express how I see what is in front of me. Photographs that show you how I feel when I see something. I want the viewer to feel a connection when they see my photographs. I want my images to touch people on a soul level. This interests me more than the technical aspects of using a camera. However, it is important that we become completely familiar with our camera and lenses and practice the technical aspects of photography so they will become second nature to us and we are no longer have to concentrate on them. Then we can become free to create our images using our camera and lenses as an extension to our mind and our eyes. To create art that really works, we need to become completely absorbed in our subject matter. And we can't do this if we are anxious about whether we are doing the right thing with our equipment. But we also need to go beyond technical competence to truly see and convey the beauty of a subject and produce a photograph which will evoke an emotional response in those who see it. Helen Keller expressed this idea saying, "The most beautiful things cannot be seen or even touched, they must be felt." For her, water was a cool, slippery splash. Sun was the warm afternoon glow coating her skin. Lily was a sweet-smelling petal, soft and delicate to her touch. How we feel, it affects what we see. When you hold the camera, you discover that the beauty can be found in the most unexpected places. Beauty, it's not about perfection or pristine. It is much, much more than that. You already have the ability to see and respond to beauty. When you are looking at the images that I am showing you right now, you can instantly tell which one you like and which one you dislike. You don't need to think about it. You just know. You have an awareness of the beauty that is built into your subconscious. You already have what is necessary to create beautiful images. What you need to do is to tap into that awareness. When you tap into that reservoir of knowledge that you have locked inside, you will discover your own talent and ability for photography. There is really no end to what you can achieve with your images, as long as you are willing to put in the necessary work. Each day you see many things, almost subconsciously, as routine takes over our life. Each day you see hundreds of scenes so familiar that you never give them a second look. Each day you boil water to make yourself a cup of tea. Each day you glance at the buildings from your window. The ordinary and familiar images seldom get a second look, but the images of familiar things make us alert to the way we look at them. Who would have thought that unmade bed can look like a dramatic landscape? Who would have thought that a plastic salad spoon can be transformed into a sunset? At first, you might have trouble finding things to photograph. Ordinary things look just so trivial and uninteresting. Remember, developing new awareness takes time. Start by taking images at home. Wander through the rooms, photographing. You might not take a single good image for the first few times. Just keep going. Don't give up. Once you believe you can see differently, you will. Many of us hold the belief that we need to get things right the first time. But I think that the best way to learn is to make mistakes. And this is also a wonderful way of finding new ways to do things. In fact, mistakes are often more useful than successes and are far more interesting than repeating things you've already done many times. Push yourself to try new things whenever you can. It keeps you growing creatively. Remember that there is no right or wrong way to be creative. There is only the way that allows you to express who you are. All original art begins with experimentation and often develops through mistake made and asking the question, what if? The essential part of creating, it's in the process rather than the final product. Good images are those made with your heart and your eyes, working together to create a visual language that is uniquely your own. To become an artist with a camera, you will need to return to some traditional values, such as hard work, dedication, and willingness to learn from your mistakes. You have to begin to see the world as a set of options instead of subjects, to see possibilities instead of mountains, to see light instead of people. It is an inward journey that allows you to explore who you are and how you see the world. The camera just captures that vision, nothing more. We each have a highly unique perception of the world around us, seeing it through the lens of past experiences, present beliefs, and learned responses. We don't just use our cameras to make an image. We use every part of ourselves to envision and create it. Vision, it's the intent behind the photograph. It is what leads us to frame an image in a certain way, choose a certain lens over another, or photograph from one angle or another. Without that intent, we are left with accidental photography. Before we create an image, we need to understand what we want to say and how we want to say it. Every day, the light is different. It will never look just like this again. You will never have this day again. Ask yourself, why do I photograph? What I am trying to say? What is important to me? Once you know where your interest lies, you will be in a better position to sharpen the way you observe and see more of what speaks to you. I photograph because I want to share the beauty of the world with others. This can take shape of the way light falls on the water, or the intense green of the morning grass covered in dew. As I mentioned before, we often fail to appreciate the beauty of our everyday surroundings or take them for granted. We need to learn to see the world as if we are looking at it for the very first time. So how do you start seeing a new world that has been there all along? How do we open our eyes to see in fresh and interesting ways? When we are awake with our eyes open, we have the impression that we see the world vividly, completely, and in detail. But this impression is wrong. In fact, at any given moment, we perceive only a tiny amount of the information in our surroundings, just enough to carry us through the task at hand. And we have nothing but our own brain to blame for it. The brain has two distinct sides, the left brain and the right brain. Each is responsible for different things, and each process information in different complementary ways. The left brain processes written and spoken information. It is logical, rational, sequential, verbal, and textual. It simplifies the vast amount of information it receives to prevent information overload. The right brain, on the other hand, interprets information intuitively, visually, creatively, and emotionally. For most of us, the difficulty in seeing originates from a tendency to rely on the left brain's analytical processing of visual information. The left brain abstracts information and symbolizes it. When processing visual information using the left brain, we register the object we're looking at, but do not really perceive them as they actually appear. We are fully capable of seeing objects as they actually appear, but most of us need to train ourselves to use the right brain more effectively. To become more visually focused, you can, instead of attaching names to all the objects you see, begin describing them in visual terms only. You may say, I like the light shape against the dark, or I like the pattern of light and the purple shape surrounded by green. If you consciously identify the visual aspect of your subject, there is a better chance you will respond to a subject rather than letting your preconceived notions take over your thinking. Every time you approach a subject, you are faced with the same dilemma. The left brain wants you to see it as a collection of nameable items, while the right brain wants you to see it as a group of shapes. Everything you photograph, it's a shape. Every object, it's a three-dimensional form in space. As soon as you transpose that form onto a flat surface of a photograph, you have represented it as a shape. Therefore, to be able to see subjects as shapes, learn to look for shapes created by light, shadows, and color. When creating images, it is easy to get sidetracked by all the confusing information and intricate details. There is so much to see. Your images can become overly complicated. When you find yourself in this situation, try looking for simple shapes first. Concentrate on main objects and try to ignore all the non-essential details. See each object as a single shape. The next step in developing your visual awareness, it's not only to see a subject's shape, but also to analyze the shape for its visual interest and its ability to contribute to an image. Looking at the object from several different points of view will help you to find which views present the most visually interesting shapes. Composing an image involves organizing shapes, where each shape, like a piece in a puzzle, contributes to the whole. Once you actually see things as shapes, color, and lines, you reach a point where you can create photographs freely and naturally. It's only at this point that your unique personal vision starts to shine through. Think of it as a process of discovering how to unlock the potential of a subject. Ask yourself what the fundamentals of the scene in front of you are and what information you will need to include in your photograph to capture the essence of the subject. Try to reduce all different elements into areas of light and shadow. Creating photographs, it's like a conversation. Regardless of what emotion you wish to express, your body language, gestures, and tone of voice all works together with the words you speak to convey your feelings. Every component needs to be in sync to truly convey a clear message. If one of those elements implies something different, the intention becomes confused. Creating an expressive image which clearly articulates your feelings and thoughts requires much the same unity of elements. Before you start creating your images, clarify in your own mind what you are trying to say, what you find interesting or moving about the scene in front of you. Slow down, absorb nature, quiet your mind, and appreciate the nuances and variety of what's around you. Then just be attentive to your feelings until something grabs your attention. That way, you will find a subject with your heart rather than your head. If you slow down and let the subject matter speak to you, you will be less likely to filter the scene through your usual familiar ideas of what a good image or subject is. You will respond with a fresh vision of shapes, lines, and their arrangements in a picture plane. Whenever you are on the photo shoot, look at your world around you as a combination of form, color, and light. Instead of looking for things, start looking for lines, textures, contrast, and patterns. Instead of seeing an object as just a tree, for example, see what shapes you can find in it. What about patterns or textures or shadows? By doing so, you will see that tree, it's not only a tree, but it's also a vertical line or the color green or a shadow on the earth. We need to develop the patience it takes to think of the different ways we can express our subject. And this means looking deeply at those subjects from all angles, in all lights, and in all ways, close up, from a distance, as abstract, as lines, as shape, as color, as light. When you photograph, ask yourself if there is another way you could express the subject. Sometimes the slightest change in position or a change in a camera controls can turn a photograph into something special, but don't expect a perfect photo every time. Edward Weston spent years photographing green papers until he perfected his art. This took passion, dedication, patience, and the recognition that even the simplest subject have much to offer. The best way to improve your photography is to practice and experiment over and over again. Unexpected creative insights only come when you are willing to spend time being in the flow of the process without worrying about the outcome. Experimenting and playing are one and the same to me. I play with no expectations about my results, and I am often rewarded with new creative ideas or a step towards a new ways of doing things. The more you are willing to play and experiment, the quicker your photography will improve and the more fun you will have doing it. Creativity, it's a process, not a product. There should never be a destination. Photography should be a constant search. Through experimentation, you will develop a way of looking at the subject in a more imaginative way. You will find that one idea leads to another and that the creative juices begin to flow. You will also discover that there are no boundaries, only those you impose on yourself. In order to make your own personal discoveries, it is important to spend time playing. When you experiment, you are not always in control, but part of the skill is to recognize happy accidents and use these to your advantage. The challenge of working outside your comfort zone can result in some refreshing new work, and without a doubt, will make you a better photographer. Let's look now at the three basic building blocks of images: light, lines, and color. Light is the most important ingredient in your photography. Without light, photography simply doesn't exist. Light transforms an ordinary image into one with mood and atmosphere. When you realize that it is not so much the subject you are photographing, but the light falling onto it or being reflected from it, photography becomes much easier to understand and good images are easier to find. Observing and experiencing light, it's a journey. You just need to let the light guide you and make each moment a new discovery. The result may be surprising and fascinating. As the painter applies paint to the canvas, so the photographer applies light to the image sensor. Light is foundation of every photograph and can be used to create mood and atmosphere. The subject matter is only a vehicle to convey the feeling and emotions that light creates. Regardless of whether you are with your camera or not, make a habit of observing light. Pay attention to its direction and strength. In time, you will develop a mindset that will tell you how to position yourself for the best lighting to create a specific look and a specific mood in your photograph. Like each subject, light has its own character. It is the marrying together of light and subject in an appropriate manner that forms very successful image. Time spent simply watching light, it's never wasted. The result will show in your photography and you will be able to achieve your creative vision. Everywhere you turn, lines are on display in all forms and sizes: straight, curved, oblique, vertical, horizontal, and even zigzag. Every scene can be reduced to a diverse collection of lines. They can suggest mood and rhythm, create patterns, and indicate direction and structure. Used well, they suggest movement, convey impact, and help to focus attention on the key points of the composition. By their very nature, lines create a sense of visual direction through an image. Horizontal lines suggest calm and quiet, a relaxed comfort. They are stable and secure. Vertical lines are strong and rigid. They can suggest stability. The most dynamic lines are obliques. They provide visual power. They are filled with energy. Look at the lines in the scene and use them creatively. Break down each scene to simple lines in your mind's eye, and then try to put those lines together like a jigsaw puzzle to create composition that support your idea or the feeling that you want to convey. Explore different possibilities. You may ask yourself as you're composing your images, are the lines leading somewhere? Do they have the energy you want? How changing their position influence that energy? How you answer these questions will depend on your scene and what you are trying to accomplish. There is no universally right or wrong answer. It depends entirely what you are wanting to create. Color is the most expressively used element of an image. When we look at a photograph, we experience our overall feelings through color. Color can express emotion, set a mood, or describe an attitude. Color can express feelings that we cannot verbalize. You should develop your own intimate relationship with light, lines, and color through constant observation of the world around you. To achieve a new way of seeing, you need to be both patient and persistent. There is no shortcut to creativity. Take the time to learn artistic concepts and techniques. Once you start to see, you will never see things in the same old way again. Growing as a photographer and artist is a lifelong journey. When you choose to follow a pathway of creativity, you will need to take along your intellect and intuition, as well as mastery of techniques. Only you can decide how important photography is in your life. Your creative inner spirit will guide you because the best images comes from the voice within. Don't photograph to please anyone but yourself. Spontaneity is an essential quality when photographing. It is a matter of finding the right balance between planning what you wish to express and the way you intend to express it, and allowing yourself the freedom to modify things and consider other ideas as the photo shoot develops. Great things will happen when you allow yourself to walk outside the box. Never let anyone to tell you that this is the box and you can't get out. Never be afraid to try new things. If you want to discover new aspects of art making and new ways of expression, play more. Whenever you are at, never give up. Never let anyone talk you out of it. Don't let yourself talk you out of it. You see this world in a ways uniquely only to you. Allow yourself to be guided by your feelings, expression, and intuition, and you will see more clearly and gain depth and insights. Whatever your goal is as an artist, go after it with passion and persistence. Through trial and error, your confidence will build, and your photographs will reflect that. Never be afraid to trust your own instincts, fantasies, visions, or dreams. Remember, the creation and appreciation of art, it's a personal and subjective process. You are free to photograph the world as you see it. After all, the possibilities for artistic expression through photography are limitless. Thank you.
Well, Eva, that was fantastic.
No, thank you.
I see a whole lot of things that I need to use the right half of my brain. My left brain works pretty well, but the other one, not so much.
Oh, let me stop. Oh, this is.
Well, Eva, I want to thank you for pointing out things that Ilos mentioned. I've been trying to tell him for years these things, but
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, I think like we instinctively, we know that, but I think like we need to remind ourselves like again and again that there is this dual brain inside of us. And I think that the Western education anyway, it's sort of like really focused on the left brain because everything is very easily measured. Like, you know, when you do a test, then yeah, there are points and everything is like sort of put together. All sort of like everything can be like, you know, distinguished. But with the right brain, it's all about the feelings and it's all about you and how you can measure this. It's very, very hard. Yeah. And yeah, like that. And I think that's why like we are not really focusing on it. But I think that like with art, we should, because it really gives us the insight of us. And that's what makes our photography different, because you're always going to put your own spin on everything.
Okay, I'm going to ask a left brain question. Back in the beginning, I saw a picture of somebody standing in a field. Yeah. It was a wheat field or what it was, but it would look, I don't think it was just blurry, but it was, how do you do this and make it look better than just a out of focus picture?
Well, doing like the out of focus sort of like blurry images, it like, you know, the whole process quite simple. You just you defocus your lens, basically. That's what it is. But with like any other types of photography, you need to find this balance that you will give the hints, like what I am trying to do, just give you a hint what that could be. I'm not revealing everything. I am just giving you clues to the visual clues. And my job is to give you enough that it's not became just blur, but it has its own shape. So it really, like, you know, it really is a matter of practicing with your own lens and sort of finding that right spot of defocusing, because every lens will give you like a different results, like, you know, they are built differently, and also they have like a different apertures. So, you know, the aperture gives you sharpness. So the widest you can open your lens, the more blur you will get. But you could do, like, you know, experiments, like set your camera to the biggest number of aperture. So it could be like 22, like, you know, some lenses can go even more than that. Like I have a lens that can go to 45, aperture 45.
Wow.
So even if I set my camera to aperture priority, set that to 45, and then turn completely to make the things out of focus, the image actually is going to be like quite sharp, because that's what aperture does. So you also have to remember that, like, you know, but that's quite like technical thing. So you need to sort of find out how your lens records stuff when you're defocusing. So what I was doing, I was just making sort of like a series of images with slightly changing the focus on each my lens with the widest aperture possible. And then quite easily and quite quickly, you learn what you see through the viewfinder, how this is going to be translated to the images. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm sure that out of this group, there's somebody else who's got a question or two for you.
Oh, yeah, I can see that there are 2 questions chat. So what do you do in post-processing? I do very little in my post-processing. Like my aim is to do the most in camera. Obviously, I am shooting RAW, so I will have to adjust the contrast, like, you know, this kind of stuff that everyone will do when they're shooting RAW. But in terms of creating an image, like the effect, it's all done in camera. This is that was always my goal. Like, you know, like you could do a lot of stuff in Photoshop or some other post-processing software, but I am not into that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just not me. So you will have to decide what will be your creative process, and you just need to, like, you know, perfect that process to make it like as easier as possible for you. And, like, you know, don't worry about anyone else and they what they are, because that's not important.
What's the
Yes.
widest aperture you use?
Well, with my like real macro lens, like I have 2.8. I have a 50mm 2.8 Sigma. But I also use quite a lot of vintage 50mm or 80mm lenses. And I am using extension tube with those lenses. And the moment you put the extension tube in front the lens, then you sort of like, you have like a way bigger magnification than you would be looking like normally. So that's what I do. So some of those lenses have like 1.4 aperture, 1.8. So it's the reason I am using those vintage lenses, because they also have like a slightly different looks because of the way they are built. And I feel like those old lenses are quite charming, like, and have the bokeh they create. It's quite amazing. So to me, like when I am trying to buy new lens, I will research Like, I will look at someone else images with those lenses and try to figure it out if I like the out of focus area or not, because this is what I am. This is my thing. Like, some photographers will test the sharpness of the lens. I am testing the blurriness of the lens.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I think you got a couple of questions in there. One of them.
Yep.
Well-
So, oh, can you read? You can read that, and
Well, wait a minute, let me get back to it. Can you walk us through the process you used to create the image of the two dancers? Did you decide ahead of time, or was this the result of trying several different techniques? A happy accident or planned?
Well, when you first start, like, some techniques, like you just need to try. You need to find out what those techniques actually do, because it's quite different than when you sort of like look at someone else's picture. But then with your own equipment, you may not get exactly the same result. And it's not because you don't know how to do it. It's because your lens and your camera they are just different tools. And you have to remember, every tool will give you a slightly different result. And also the light and everything that surrounds, it's going to be different. Like, you're not in the same place where I am photographing. So you can't really judge. Like, I discovered that when trying to emulate some photographer that I found long time ago, and I just couldn't. And I and it was like on the seaside, and I was like going to the Auckland. It's surrounded by different beaches and everything, but every time I went, it was just like not the same. And only when I went to sort of like South Island and tried to do sort of like a very similar picture, I realized the color, the light was so different there that my pictures start looking like completely different. So, and that made me realize that emulating someone else's work may be not successful in your mind, not because you don't know the technique. It's just because the environment is quite different, because every place has a different light and different colors. So you may never get exactly the same look. But in the same time, this is great because your pictures are going to be quite unique. Yeah. Because you are in a unique place. So did I? Oh, okay. So going back to those dancers. I started because one of those techniques I am using, it's like photographing things that are moving. Because one are like I move the camera, and some are I want something that it's moving and using the slow shutter speed. And I thought like, oh, dancing would be like a great subject. And there was quite a lot of ballroom dancing competitions in that time. So so I went through, and obviously the first few photo shoots, they were like, I was trying different shutter speed, not so much like technique itself. It's just finding out which shutter speed will give me the look, the results, like, the effect that I like. Because sometimes it was just too slow and it was too blurry. And sometimes it was just too sharp. It was on that edge of, as if I made a mistake. I wanted to sharp pictures and it looked a little bit blurry. So you need to go sort of beyond that for those kind of techniques. So they don't look, they look as you mean it. They like, I don't like when they are sort of like on this edge of, oh, I think that you just made a mistake here. Like, you know, you should work on your sharpness a bit. Like, you know, that could be the comments that people, yeah, because there is this fine line between the blurriness and sharpness. And after, like, you know, studying my pictures, and obviously each dance, also it's like, you know, some dances are quite slow and some dances are quite fast, and it depending of music as well. And I used to dance ballroom myself, that helped me a bit, because well, like, you never know the actual dance, the choreography each couple are going to do, but they are things that you just know, because you know that they are going to spin after that, because it's just the way the dance works. So waiting for those moments, like, you know, I feel that made my images more dynamic. And it's because it's also about that. It's more, especially photographing people, like I try to use the body language itself to sort of like emphasize something else, because you don't really have details to read the, like, you know, the message. You will just read the body language, because we all have that ability, like, you know, as humans. That's the like 90%, I think, of our communication goes through the body language. So it's all that. But, you know, like I was doing belly dancing, but it was, again, going and seeing few times the like how the dance work. And I was lucky because the school, the ballroom belly dancing school, they invite, like, my friend and I were invited to do the dress rehearsal. So we could walk around, we could be everywhere, and like, because we were not disturbing the audience, and the dancer, they were quite happy for us to do it. And then we could also ask, oh, can you please do this dance again? Like, I was asking that question because I knew then which moments I wanted to capture. And also, like, you know, the dancers were quite happy to do that for us, because it was still rehearsal for them. So it was like, if you could, even, like, you know, for the club, you could organize, like, invite a couple of dancers and just ask them to dance for you, and you could take pictures. So yeah, or just going on competitions.
We've got something set up in a month or so. It's going to be Japan Fest, where we're going to have access to all of the dancers, all the performers in that. So yeah, that's the kind of thing you're talking about now.
Yeah, the one thing that I will advise, it's, if it's possible, because sometimes it's not possible, like depending how the whole thing is set up, just make sure, look for a very plain background. Because if the moment you have like something in the background, it will just become a little bit, the images are quite messy, and they are losing that impact, because there is lots of things that are competing with the subject. You could get away with those things when you're taking sharp pictures, but with the blur, the slow motion, it's not as forgiving.
Well, like I said, it's going to be an interesting thing for us. They're not going to be looking for us to, we're supposed to give them back some pictures. So they're going to want the left brain pictures.
Oh yeah, like totally. Like when I was doing this live rehearsal, like, you know, dress rehearsal, they were also asking us for pictures. So we had to do both.
Oh,
Like, sharp pictures and like, for us, whatever I wanted to do. But that's why I was asking, oh, can you do the dance again?
I got you. I
Because
got you.
I photographed something or like, for the dancers, but they didn't pay us for the pictures. We were like, sort of like doing this exchange. So like, we will give you those pictures, but you post for us. Like, you do things as we request.
Well, that's what sounds a little bit like what we've got coming for us. And I know we could keep you talking like this for hours, but I know you've got other things you need to be doing. And
Well, look, I'm fine at the moment, so we can talk. Like, if you have, I think there is some other question. Do you have any preference for Zenith lenses? I do have one Zenith lens, and I think it's like a 85 mils. Let me.
Alice, I didn't quite hear. What type lens was you looking for?
Zenith. They are Russian lenses. So, like, if you, like, I am from Poland, and like, Russian lenses are quite like, like we were very aware of them. And because we were getting quite a lot of Russian optics, and Russian optics are actually really, really good, especially the old one. I don't know how the latest things and with things are going on at the moment, that's another story. But if you can get some old lenses, like those vintage lenses, they are actually like really good. They are very heavy, but they are built because they are all metal. They are not plastic, like with the modern lenses. And they have like a beautiful looks. And I have this, this is, I think it's 85 mil, 1.5 aperture. Wow. And this lens, the reason I bought this lens was because it flares very easily, and just a little bit of light that goes into the lens like creates this like really, really nice, well, like for me, it's nice flare. And you could, and it also like creates those rainbows, flares, and all sorts of things, depending of the angle that the light gets in. But it's way easier to get the flare than with any other lenses.
so a left brain photographer would say that's a poor quality lens. A right brain photographer says, great, I love it.
Well, I think it's not so much left or right. It's just the aesthetics that you prefer. To me, it is like I said in the presentation, it's not right or wrong. It's just the options that you can get. And you need to decide what you like. And like, if you don't like flare, fine. Like, there is nothing wrong with it. But right. If you love it, it's great. Like, use it, So to me, that's it. This is just a tool that I am trying, like I am using, and I am trying to create something that it's interesting.
Well, you've done a good job of that with the pictures we saw tonight. It was fantastic.
Well, thank you. So any other questions? Or do you want to see some other work, or like, up to you. I'm not pushing. I can show you the whole presentation of, like, my dancers. It's always like quite popular. So if you want it, I can show you this. But it's up to you.
Well, what do we think, folks?
I think it's like a 2 minutes thing.
Show us, please.
Okay. So, let me just share my screen.
Eva, while you're bringing it up, I thought it was interesting when you're talking about the older lenses. I wonder how a 78-year-old lens would do.
Sorry.
Careful
what
now,
lens?
fella. I think he's talking about me.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so let's play that. Oh, this is all. It's the whole thing disappears on me. Like so sorry for this.
I can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry, because I thought like probably I click on the share screen, but you have to click twice. Sorry. Okay. Sure.
There.
Okay. All right.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Eva, those images are wonderful. Those dance shots are just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've inspired me. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, great, great. So I hope you're going to do something like that.
Yes.
That's what I love to hear.
Now we go out next time, we'll be looking at things a little differently.
Well, the other possibilities, like, you know, like you may not have the like chance to photograph people or dancers or anything else. Like, you know, you could, if you have access to water, like, you know, waves or like just streams, you could photograph beautiful pictures just with slow shutter speed. I can show you another one I did of waves. And yeah, this is something like, it's quite, to me, it's quite easy because it's easily available and the water just goes, like, you know, and you don't have to deal with other people, like, you know, their personalities, like, you know, the water is not going to get bored with you. You can just try and try and try because it, you know, it's all important. And with, especially when you first starting, like you will take hundreds of pictures. And, you know, for some people that like you photographing, that can be uncomfortable. Like, you know, they will, in that one moment, they will say, okay, this is enough. I don't want that anymore. But with water, you could spend hours and hours and hours and no one is going to talk back to you, which is wonderful, which is really wonderful. Okay, so I will share this. Share. Okay.
fantastic.
Oh, thank you. So like, as you see, like any subject, as long as you spend time with it, will reveal its own secrets. So I think that's to me, that's the beauty of this type of photography, that you don't really need anything spectacular. You don't have to chase landscapes. You just need to be patient and open, and anything can become good picture.
That's fantastic. And I don't know about the rest of it. I enjoyed it tremendously. And I think we're probably bothered you enough. And I think we're going to let her go tonight. And thank you so much, Eva.
Well, like I just answered those few questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please.
So what and where do you teach? Like I teach online. So they are, like, if you go to my website, they are online courses, and they have like I have like a two different like subject that I teach. And what's like maybe different is like, you know, to my courses, it's like you can start at any time. It's up to you. They are all open, and you are able to do your assignments. Like, you know, like I will comment on your pictures. I will give you a feedback to all your assignments. So I think it's like, you know, I think this is quite valuable. But I also have books that you could purchase, but they are also like a lot of free stuff on my website. So just go there and have a look, and you will sort of like find something that perhaps will inspire you or help you in your journey.
Well, that's
Like
great.
you don't, and like I said, you don't have to be on the beach. Like, you know, I am pretty sure that you probably have some streams around your place where you live, and you can do exactly this. Like, you know, like obviously the pictures are going to be a little bit different because you don't really have those waves, like, you know.
Well, we've got a lot. We have a lot of waterfalls and creeks. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. You just need to experiment and find the way to capture those things that it's interesting. That's basically it. Like, you know, there is no, and like, you know, and because the water is moving all the time, and each picture it's going to be different because the water is not going to do exactly the same thing. Like, you know, so that's another exciting thing about this type of photography, that you will just have lots of different pictures. Not one, not two pictures are the same.
You got another question?
No, like I think there is.
I see you got a whole lot of compliments on there.
Yes, I can see. Thank you so much. You all very kind. And like I said, like, you know, if you love this type of photography, just go for it. Like, you know, I would be, my only advice will be, don't show those pictures to people who are not into them, especially in the beginning, because they will crush your spirit with constant criticism. Because, like, you know, you either like it or not, and it's fine. That's normal. And when I was first started, I belonged to like, you know, like I used to belong to a club like yours, and I was showing my pictures. I was so excited, and this was like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. And like, you know, 90% of people there were looking at me, and they were like, where are you going to take sharp pictures again? I was like, what do you mean sharp pictures? My pictures are perfect. But if I only listen to them, you know, we wouldn't be talking now.
Right.
Like, and I know how hard it is to sort of to stand like with your convictions and saying, yeah, this is what I'm doing. That's what I want. I don't care whatever you say, because it's hard. And we are all responding like really personally to any criticism or like even like unkind comment. Like, you know, they can crush our spirit. So that would be my only advice. Like, you know, I know how overexcited you could be, but be careful who you're showing those pictures to. Like I will advise to join like a Facebook group or something that the people are like, you know, doing this kind of work, because then you will not get those stupid, you know, comments. Your pictures are not sharp or like, you know, whatever.
Right.
Because, you know, all those comments are coming from, like, in my opinion, from ignorance, like, you know, not understanding what you're trying to do, or sort of having this preconception what photography is all about. And I hope, like, you know, like I also, like with my presentation, wanted to show you that photography, it's only what you wanted it to be. There is no right or wrong. It's all up to you what you're going to do with your equipment, like, you know, with your tools. It's that's it. Like, you know, but yeah.
Well, thank you. Again, it was fantastic. A whole different way of looking at things.
Eva, I really enjoyed it. Thank you as well.
Oh, yeah, like thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope it was all like, you know, like I am excited when people are excited and wanted to do something similar, because I know how much joy this style of photography gave me. It still gives me all the time. And I wish everyone to feel that, because that's why we do photography.
Well, your enthusiasm is obvious. And listening to you talk is wonderful.
Thank you, Eva.